Thank you. Please be seated. Good evening, Professor Tulisile Madosela, honored guests, staff, parents, and the Pretoria Boys High School Matrics of 2021. This evening is about the young grade 12 men who are seated in the audience as we acknowledge them and their parents at this time, the end of the school journey that has taken some 12 years to complete. In acknowledging them and the fact that the matrics have come to the end of an important chapter in their lives, we welcome all of you to this, the matric valediction ceremony. In welcoming those present, I also welcome those who are unable to join us in person this evening, but instead have joined us via the online stream. A live stream being something that all of us have become more and more used to over the months that have passed. This obviously as a result of the restrictions that COVID has placed on us. To those of you who join us from home, a warm word of welcome. This evening's function, together with the school's commencement ceremony, are undoubtedly the two most important parent events of the school. I'm fully aware of the disappointment this arrangement has caused, and I can assure you that the school is just as saddened. Thank you for your understanding and your support in this matter. The various items for this ceremony will largely follow unannounced as per the program that you have all received. Having said this, without any further ado, I would like to ask two of our matric boys, Loren and Ehlers, who will be playing the accordion, and Arno de Bruin, who will be playing the alto saxophone, to please come to the stage to perform their musical item. They will be playing a piece called Breheme, composed by G Hermosa.
Good evening. Our Bible reading this evening comes from Jeremiah 29, verse 11 to 14. It reads as follows. Ka gobane nna ke tseba gabotse menagano yeo ke inaganago ka lena, o rialo Jehova, e lego menagano ya khutšo, e sego ya bošula, gore ke le neye bokamoso le kholofelo. Le tla mpitša, la tla la nthapela, gomme ke tla le tsheetša. Le tla nyaka, gomme la nkhwetša, ka gobane le ka se ntšome ka pelo ya lena ka moka. This is the word of the Lord.
Toe die Afrikaanse digter, D.J. Opperman, sy eerste kind gebore is, skryf hy: Watter kaart of watter ster sal ek jou wys om veilig deur die grysland heen te reis? Mag die suiderkruis en 9 sterre witter as die stedeligte in jou siel bly skitter. Vir die afgelope 5 jaar kon ons saam loop en na dieselfde sterrehemel opkyk. Nou, aan die vooraand van die res van ons lewens, word ons skooldae in ons siege gegraveer. Ewigdurend en begeleidend, 'n sterrehemel van hoop. Waar ons baie nou skei, gee ons vir mekaar die gebed in Ephesians 3. Mag julle in staat wees om saam met al die gelowiges te begryp hoe ver en wyd en hoog en diep die liefde van Christus strek. Mag julle sy liefde ken, liefde wat ons verstand te bowe gaan, en mag julle heeltemal vervul word met die volheid van God. Amen.
Shelter from the storm. Fly and never tire, fly and never tire, fly and never tire. There's a great camp waiting in the promised land. These are words from an African American spiritual, and I've chosen them because not only do they inspire us to keep on pushing until we achieve our goals, but they perfectly reflect the matric group that we have become. We have had to push through 2 years of COVID, spending hours on self-study. We have had to redefine our goals as the school has been forced to shift the goalposts. At many times, we were tempted just to give up, as many of the opportunities and activities usually offered at Boys High were cancelled or postponed. And yet, here we are tonight. This is it, Valediction. We are the group who have had to fly and never tire. We have risen to the challenge, and we have accomplished so many great things with the odds stacked against us. We are truly a remarkable matric group. Good evening, Mr. Hassenkamp, Mr. Ilsley, Professor Madonsela, Mr. Weber, Mr. Kingen, staff, guests, parents, and of course, my brothers seated in front of me. It seems like just the other day that we sat together for the first time in front of this magnificent school building. I think I can say for all of us that from that day on, we realized that we didn't just pick a school, like the application paper suggested. We had picked a hallowed institution that would change our lives forever. We had picked the greatest school in the world. It feels like just the other day that I sat in Mr. McBride's maths class as he explained to us in great detail and with sheer delight the time when he put small crackers in his father's cigarette and the look on his father's face when he lit the cigarette and it exploded. It feels like just the other day that I started learning the famous or infamous, depending on who you ask, Boys High slang. And I won't sparse brew. It has become completely ingrained into my vocabulary, to the extent that whenever I go to Satellite, which is a university church socializing event, people often say to me, "Are you from Boys High?" Obviously, I proudly reply yes, and then ask, "How did you know?" They almost always say something similar to, "You can always spot a Boys High boy from a mile away." It's their choice of words: sparse, cost, it's late. And they are the only men with manners. Boys High has its very own language that defines our culture and brotherhood. We belong to our very own nation, the Republic of Pretoria Boys High School. And although we have had our disappointments due to COVID, this school has still given us so much, and the memories that we have will last a lifetime. We'll never forget the exhilaration of being swept up with the rest of the school when we supported our first Candies or Red Sox game in 2017, or the triumph that we felt when the Candies finally beat Uffies after years of loss in 2019. And of course, how could I leave out Bush School? I mean lunch bar, where we were chewed out, cussed out, and shaped for the rest of our Boys High career. Another highlight for me was watching the choir perform in front of the school or in competitions. The triumphant singing of glory united us all in a single battle cry. The choir may not have won all their competitions, but everyone knew that the audience preferred our performance far more than all the others because we had shown them the soul and the spirit of this school. Over the years, I've really enjoyed interacting with old boys, parents, and people who were once connected to the school. Hearing their own funny stories and seeing the Boys High magic light up in their eyes as they told them to me reminded me of the power of this school to change and influence lives. The second reason that I chose the quote that I said at the beginning of my speech was because of two key words: promised land. And although they have a biblical connotation, I believe it represents the goals and dreams that all of us are hoping to achieve. And for this very purpose, Boys High has given us a fail-safe, a blueprint called the boys' highway. Its core values, as we all know so well, is honor, loyalty, respect, and integrity. And if we go out into life applying these 4 core values in our work and in our play, we are bound to become men of value. Life is bound to have its challenges and hardships. I have no doubt that all of us will become exceptionally or very successful businessmen, politicians, and captains of industry. And some of us may even choose to become a professional jolo for a while after school. But as I've said, sometimes life just knocks you down, and you're not sure where to go or how to move. But because of the boys' highway, we all know exactly where to go, because we'll move in the direction of honor, loyalty, respect, and integrity. Honor is the power of knowing and doing what is morally right. Lord Peter Hain was an old boy and an honorable man who led the international protest against apartheid in 1970, trying to prevent the Springboks from playing rugby in Britain. The Stop the 70s tour was a massive success, as most games had to be cancelled due to the enormous protest action. Now, Lord Peter Hain can definitely be classified as a professional troublemaker and a true man of honor, because of his unwavering effort to do the right thing and to topple oppression in the face of unprecedented danger and assassination attempts. But now you ask yourself, what is a professional troublemaker? Activist Lovey Ajayi Jones describes a professional troublemaker as someone who makes good trouble. A person who disrupts the status quo to do the right thing and to not just make people uncomfortable or cause mass disruption. Now, with that definition in mind, it's inevitable that all of us will become professional troublemakers. Because ultimately, when we think differently, have different views to other people, and don't just go along with the crowd, it seems like trouble. However, if the trouble we create leaves the room elevated, if it gives our children and grandchildren a better life, and if it lets you be proud of who you are, then trouble is the only way to go, and it is essential that we all make trouble in our lives. Loyalty in leadership. Another Boys High legend is John Smith, who learned the importance of loyalty and persevering in the face of challenges and difficulties. The values that he learned from this school made him into an exceptional leader who led the Springboks into victory in the 2007 Rugby World Cup. Now, I couldn't speak on the topic of loyalty without mentioning in his absence Mr. Rieler, Mr. Hassenkamp, Mr. Ehlers, and all the staff members who have taught us and mentored us during the course of these 5 years. Teachers like Mr. Jaden Kelly, who showed us what true loyalty looks like, who set a standard that all men should live up to, and who always encouraged us to empty the tank. The loyalty of those who have led us, taught us, and mentored us over the course of these 5 years is exceptional. And we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for always putting the boys first, no matter what, even if we didn't show appreciation or we were difficult at times. So many boys seated in this hall tonight have given up so much for their school. So many late nights and so many early mornings, and won't necessarily be rewarded or acknowledged in prizes this evening. But I want all of you to know that you are not forgotten. I acknowledge and I thank you for the service that you have given to the school. Thank you for the success that you've created for the school. Success that won't be easily matched. Respect. This is evident in the one-of-a-kind greetings we give each other in the corridors, standing for teachers, and of course the Bloom campaign, which so many of us contributed our talents to, which highlights the scourge of gender-based violence in our societies, and which highlights the need for every single woman around the globe to be treated with respect, value, and the equality which they so richly deserve. Elon Musk is another old boy who may be harshly criticized for some of his ideas, but he has earned the respect by all, including those who criticize him, because of the way in which he goes out and makes his dreams a reality and shuns all those who call it impossible. Integrity. yet another old boy, is advocate and judge, Judge Edwin Cameron, who was appointed by Nelson Mandela to become a constitutional court justice because of his integrity. The values that he learned at Boys High meant that he was trusted for safeguarding our Constitution, a Constitution that holds freedom, liberty, justice, and equality for all, and which is so richly regarded in our society. To become a man of value is far more important than becoming a man of financial success. In my view, true success is being a good husband, father, partner, and person with steadfast values and morals that aren't easily compromised. Peter Hain, John Smith, Judge Cameron, and Elon Musk all sat at the very same fish pond that you sat at when you were a Form 1. They are now living lives that not even their Form 1 self could have imagined, and they have gone out into the world and have made their dreams a reality. Don't tell me that you cannot achieve your dreams. Don't tell me that anything is impossible. All that I ask of you is to have audacious hope, the type of hope that seems ludicrous at the time, but will ultimately cause you to change the world, and change the world the Boys High way. Fly and never tire, fly and never tire, fly and never tire. I cannot wait to see you in your promised land.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, Mr. Hassenkamp, staff, and boys. I'd like to take this opportunity to extend thanks wholeheartedly to not only the organization, but more specifically, the staff of Pretoria Boys High School. I think I speak on behalf of every single matric when I say that your countless hours of hard work, dedication, have gone a long way in making our 5 years at Boys High wonderful and memorable, and your contribution to the school and the lives of those in it cannot be understated. I would therefore like to present this parting gift to Pretoria Boys High School, represented by Mr. Hassenkamp, on behalf of the Leaving Matric Group of 2021. Thank you, Boys High.
Thank you very much, Kyle. What a year 2021 has been. If I think back to this time last year when I was addressing the matrics at the same function, there was a feeling amongst all of us that we could not wait for 2020 to end so that we could continue in 2021 as per normal. At the time, COVID restrictions were being reduced and our normal routine was falling back into place. The feeling amongst the Form 4s last year, this time, was one of, thank goodness I'm not in matric in 2020. I can't wait for my matric year when COVID has passed and we can continue as per normal. Little did we know at the time what 2021 had in store for us. Not only in 2021 did COVID continue to play havoc with our lives, but there was also an added event in South Africa which none of us predicted. Here I'm referring to the looting, riots, protests, and treasonous coup attempt that all of us witnessed during that fateful and forgettable week in July. There can be no doubt that the events of that week not only affected all of us, both short and long term, but also as a nation, these events shook us to our core. For all of us, I believe there was a serious introspection. Introspection as individuals, introspection as families, as professionals, as organizations, and as South Africans. Introspection in terms of the role each of us play in what had happened, and more importantly, the role each of us play in the way forward. When I returned to the school in the third term, I based an assembly reflecting on these events from July. The title of my assembly was "The Glass is Half Full." The theme of my message this evening is very much along the same lines. The reason I choose to reflect on these events this evening is the same reason I spoke about them in July. Firstly, I speak about these events because I'm extremely passionate about this country and the potential it has. Secondly, and more importantly this evening, because I believe in the young men sitting in this hall tonight, and I firmly believe that they are the ones who have the potential to make this country work. Perhaps at no other time in the history of South Africa has there been a more urgent need for citizens who are products of good schools. Schools where values-based education and character development are as, if not more important, than the academic offering. In spite of a sometimes dispiriting prognosis, the potential for our country to become a world-class nation remains. What is needed are a few generations of educated, energetic, values-driven, and positive young people to turn the tide. In this regard, Boys High is perfectly placed to continue to serve as a flagship school within a state education system that is struggling despite record spending by the government. This school has the capacity to continue to produce, as it has done for over a century, the type of men who can make this country work. In order to do this, we need you the young men, to hang around. The trend of immigration in the country at the moment is understandable. The lack of faith in the government, the looting, the instability, the high employment rate, the anxiety about the future, all realistic and very valid concerns. And yet, when I speak to people deciding to immigrate, I feel a sense of disillusionment for them. Not necessarily because they are making the wrong choice, but because without having traveled that road, it is impossible to know what awaits. It is impossible to know if the grass is greener on the other side, and it is impossible to know what sacrifices still have to be made. Whereas I do not encourage people not to leave, what I do encourage is for them to understand what they love about South Africa. For me, it is the ability to contribute every day in one form or another to the community and to those around us. We live in a country with tremendous adversity. It's impossible to leave your house without confronting the reality of poverty and unemployment. By simply attending this school every day, you have been exposed to this. And whereas it would be wonderful if it weren't the case, I believe South Africans are kinder and more caring because of it. We learn to accommodate and we learn to give. We develop the willingness to help where we can. That makes our children better people, and it makes our country a better place. One reason South Africans do well when they leave is because we are a resilient bunch. We all live in a country where load shedding is the norm. Good service delivery is a luxury. Improvisation is the order of the day. We have to think on our feet to survive. We have to fight to survive. And this makes us tough. The Australians would not survive a month in our unruly society with our potholed roads. For many of the countries to which South Africans leave, the poor locals do not have the same competitive edge. What a South African has to experience can never be measured against their norm. This is not even to mention the fact that our accents give us a competitive advantage way greater than they are worth. It is always an interesting notion to me when I hear people say they are considering leaving for the sake of their children. I would urge that, considering that they are often asked to leave family behind, they are changing schools and education systems, and they are being forced into an environment where they are measured against those who have functioned in that system for generations. I wonder if this is actually the case. We have very good friends who currently reside abroad and have been there for close on 2 years now. My impression is that despite the success of their children, due naturally to their superior South African upbringing, my impression is that despite the success of their children are anything but happy. A brave face perhaps, but happy, I remain unconvinced. The South African government is largely to blame for the current wave of immigration, with one of the highest income tax rates and then still the need to double dip By paying for quality education, healthcare, security, and power, it needs to take active steps to encourage people to stay. It needs to lessen the burden on the small group of taxpayers by increasing employment, which it can quite easily do by easing government regulations. It needs to rewrite policy and actively encourage foreign investment, and it needs to stop stealing from the taxpayer, which should be obvious, but this doesn't seem to be the case. There are, of course, many people who didn't have a choice but to leave South Africa, and I will never judge anyone wanting to make a better life for themselves elsewhere. After all, that's how many of us arrived in this country in the first place. In living overseas, however, it's important not to develop a warped sense of exceptionalism. What this means is that for South Africans living overseas, somehow everything in South Africa seems to be worse than anywhere else in the rest of the world. Hearing South Africans talk, you would think that our country invented corruption. Let me remind you that all 4 of South Korea's living presidents have either been jailed or are still behind bars. Let's not even start talking about Russia. Identity politics and racial conflict are far from unique in South Africa. When did any of our expats in the US last watch CNN? The economy is tanking due to lockdown, state debt has ballooned, and government made poor COVID decisions along the way. In my mind, that basically describes most large economies in a pandemic world. Reading our daily newspapers, one forgets that we live in a largely self-sufficient country that can feed itself. We have an embarrassment of natural resources, and thanks to a large young population and tens of millions of people who must still move into the middle class, we have what rich countries can only dream of. Huge potential growth, provided we do things right. In an article recently written by Helena Wasserman, I quite enjoyed how she explained living overseas after having herself lived in a couple of first world countries. While it was fantastic, in the end it was a bit like staying in a hotel room. Everything is clean and shiny, everything works. You don't have to worry about electricity. Still, it remains a hotel room. It is fun for a week at most, and then the novelty wears off. It will never have, the elusive quality that will allow you to call it home. Netflix recently produced an excellent documentary, Influence. The film chronicles Bell Pottinger's role in state capture and its other grim, undermining undertakings across the rest of the world. With a shrewd race-baiting campaign on behalf of the Gupta family, the PR company came close to breaking this country. Instead, we broke them. Something not achieved by any other country where this firm and its dark employees have previously operated. Go and watch Influence. It'll leave you inspired by how South Africans from all walks of life revolted and didn't stop until Bell Pottinger was exposed and destroyed. It's a reminder of our strength as a country, the fact that we will not lie down. As David Smith, The Guardian's former African correspondent, described it in 2017 at the height of state capture crisis, South Africa, this giant of the continent, likes to put itself on the psychiatric's couch and work itself up to the verge of nervous breakdown. And that ultimately will be its salvation. South Africa's pugnacious, independent media, feisty civil society, and robust judiciary won my admiration and filled me with hope. Better to acknowledge a crisis noisily and rambunctiously than to pretend it doesn't exist. In closing, would I encourage you boys, if you were able to go overseas to study? Absolutely. The education you will receive while traveling abroad will be invaluable. Would I encourage you to come home to make our country work? This goes without saying. The opportunities in South Africa remain tremendous. Our lifestyle is second to none. We are a robust and tough nation, and our people are arguably the most wonderful in the world. As Howard Feldman so aptly put it in an article he recently wrote, by choosing to live in this country, we are choosing to live with imperfection. We are choosing to tolerate. But we are also choosing to be part of something that can be so much greater than ourselves. That is what it means to be a South African. To the matrics of 2021, who have their lives and many big decisions ahead of them, this is something I want you to think about, and it's something I want you to remember. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a particularly warm word of welcome to our 2021 valedictorians. It is my great pleasure this evening to act as the Master of Ceremonies for the awards that will be made this evening. Just by way of explanation, we have 3 groups of awards. We will start with the academic awards, in other words, the award of colors to boys who've achieved the requisite averages in our school-based assessment. We'll then move on to the subject prizes and the announcement of the Duck Scholar for 2021 in our Form 5 group, our leaving group. And then the final group of awards are those that are unique to the Boys High Valediction ceremony, and they are a series of awards that recognize achievement in different fields in the course of a boy's time at Boys High. So we will start with the announcement of academic colors. These fall into 3 categories: half colors, full colors, and honors. In order to achieve half colors, a boy needs to have achieved between 80 and 84% average, and these, as I said, were in our assessment internally in anticipation of the final National Senior Certificate exams. As is our custom, once I've read the names of the new awards and the re-awards, we will applaud their achievement. So we have new awards of half colors for academic achievement to Claudio Belanco, Ethan Dempers, Robert Lewis, Rohan Malan, Tino Mazondida, Nicholas Oosthuizen, and then the re-awards of academic half colors to William Botha, Comparero Chavunduka, Deng Deng, Alexander Dreyer, Daniel Gedink, Delano Coglaves Vieira, Pilichi Malula, Kyle Marshall, Kavir Nagasar, Lechononolo Petla, James Plant, Edward Plint, Philip Swemmer, Johan van Bosch, Reese Wenhold, Jan Wessels, Sami Waldesadi, and Henry Zhang. Congratulations, gentlemen, on the achievement of half colors. From this point on, the awards will mostly be presented by our guest speaker this evening, Professor Thuli Madonsela. It gives me great pleasure to announce the award of full colors, and in order to achieve this, a boy needs to have achieved between 85 and 89% average. As indicated to the boys when I spoke to them earlier this afternoon, if you'll allow me to read all your names first, and then we invite you up on stage to receive the congratulations of Professor Madonsela. We have 2 new awards. These go to Loren Ehlers and Shival Suke. And we have re-awards to the following boys, and they are Liam Gillesen, Johan Koch, Tiernis Kruger, Krauser Lowe, Matthew Meisey, Irban Pinar, Aaron Repko, Yuri van der Vat, Pedron Vessels, and Joshua Zeman. Congratulations, gentlemen, on the achievement of full colors. The highest award that we can make in any field of achievement at Pretoria Boys High is that of honors. In the case of academic achievement, a boy needs to have achieved an average of 90% or more to receive honors at the school. Each of these boys I will invite up on stage individually, and they will receive a certificate in recognition of this very fine achievement. So we have 2 new awards, and the first of those is Michael Jacobs. Congratulations, Michael. The second new award of honors is to Jonathan Pretorius. Congratulations to him. We have 3 re-awards of academic honors, and the first of these is to Basil Bezuidenhout. The second of the re-awards for academic academic honors goes to Arno de Bruin. And the last of our honors re-awards is to Robert Snedden. Congratulations, Robert. We now move on to our subject prizes. The first subject prize is for business studies, and this goes to Ethan Dempers. Congratulations. Recipient of the subject prize for SEPEDI, first additional language, Letlo Khonola Petla. Congratulations. Receiving the subject prize for German, second additional language, is Tiernas Kruger. Subject prize winner for mathematics, Robert Snedden. Receiving the subject prize for advanced program mathematics, Johan Koch. In the subject of mathematical literacy, we make the award to Hilton Bailey. The subject prize winner in the subject of life sciences, Deng Deng. In history, the subject prize is awarded to Pedron Wessels. Receiving the subject prize for geography this year is Nicholas Oosthuizen. In the subject life orientation, the award goes to Reese Wenhold. In the subject of engineering, graphics and design, subject prize winner this year, Braxton Rivers. In information technology, we make the award to Shival Suke. In music, the recipient this year is Loren Ehlers. For visual arts, recipient this year, Krause Lowe. Receiving two subject prizes, these being for accounting and physical sciences, Basil Bezuidenhout. Congratulations. And finally, receiving subject prizes for Afrikaans First Additional Language, English Home Language, French Second Additional Language, and the Form 5 Dutch Scholar for 2021, Arno de Bruin. Congratulations. We now move on to our Special Boys High Awards that are made in a variety of fields and recognizing a variety of achievements. The first of these is the Brian Basson Memorial Trophy, which is awarded each year for outstanding all-round creativity in the field of art. And this year's recipient is Joska Jacobs. Congratulations. second award is the Alexis Preller Award, and this is awarded to the most promising painting student. And this year, the recipient of the Alexis Preller Award is Bradley Rickett. Congratulations. The Bakker and de Toy Art Theory Award. This is awarded for the pupil who achieves the best consistent results for art theory during his career at Pretoria Boys High. And this year's winner is Krause Low. The Best Speakers Award. This award is made to the best public speaker in Form 5, an honor merited both in his form and in a public arena. I'm sure it will come as no surprise, given the oratory to which we were treated earlier, that this is being awarded to Liam Gillesen. Congratulations, Liam. The Terence Ashton Memorial Prize is presented to a Form 5 boy who excelled in the study of literature and who demonstrates most clearly a delight in words. And this is awarded each year in memory of Terence Ashton, a Boys High English Master Extraordinary for 24 years. And this year's recipient of the Terence Ashton Memorial Prize is Arno de Bruin. The Justine Armstrong Award is made to recognize the most significant contribution in the field of music. This year it is a shared award, and it is awarded jointly to Arno de Bruin and Loren Ehlers. Congratulations, gentlemen. The Trebbit Barry Award. This award is made to the boy who's done the most to promote cross-cultural respect, understanding, and dialogue, and has helped make Boys High a school where people of all cultures feel at home. And we are very delighted to have Dr. Trebbit Barry with us this evening. The Trebbit Barry Award for 2021 goes to Tino Chirozvi. Congratulations, Tino. The Gail Blumink Award for Service is awarded to the pupil who, in the opinion of his peers, has made a significant contribution serving both the school and the wider community. This year's recipient is Connor McGill. Michael Leemhuis Award. This is awarded to a boy who, during his time at Pretoria Boys High, has dealt with adversity and overcome significant personal challenges, showing great courage and fortitude. Michael Leemhuis Award for 2021 goes to Johan Wessels. Our next award is the Matlwari Award. I should perhaps explain that this is a new award. It was presented to the school a few months ago by two of our reunion groups, the groups of 1960 and 1961. And so this evening is the first time we are making this award. So this will be awarded to a scholar who best displays the quality of adaptability to adverse circumstances. And the very first recipient of the Matlwari Award is Devon Smith. The Cliff Saunders Cultural Award is awarded to the pupil who has shown a keen interest in a variety of cultural activities, who has pursued these interests with passion and diligence, and who has excelled in one or more of these fields. And the recipient this year is Jonathan Pretorius. Congratulations. The Jonathan D. Jansen Award is awarded to the pupil who has displayed the finest combination of commitment, creativity, and compassion during his time at Pretoria Boys High. And this year's recipient is Liam Gillesen. The Margaret Tyler Award. This is awarded to the scholar showing the best all-round prowess in sport, who participated meaningfully in the sporting sense, and who has also contributed to the life of the school. The Margaret Tyler Award for this year goes to Dylan Condes. The Gertrude Tyler Award. This is awarded to a pupil showing the most diligence, who is not necessarily brilliant or academically successful, but rather a good all-rounder who has contributed meaningfully to the life of the school. And this is awarded to James Plant. The Ulrich Rissig Prize, the citation reads as follows: he shall have an average academic achievement during his career at the school. He shall be judged to have given of his best, both in his studies and his extramural activities. He shall be judged to have made the best contributions towards upholding the ideals, traditions, and history of the school. And we make the award to Tato Naku. The Elwyn Davies Award, awarded annually to a leaver from Pretoria Boys High School, who, though not necessarily distinguished for his academic or athletic abilities or for his powers of leadership, there being other forms of recognition and awards for such boys, has set the finest example to his fellows of sincerity, integrity, loyalty, and reliability in his relationships with those about him at the school. This year's Elwyn Davies Award goes to Marcus Moon. Congratulations, Marcus. The Malcolm Armstrong Renaissance Man Award. This award serves to recognize and encourage those of this school whose use of their talents has earned them recognition in the three spheres of endeavor at Pretoria Boys High: academic, cultural, and sporting. The chosen candidate should possess a human compassion that promises that his talents will not be directed inwards towards self-satisfaction, but outwards to service. The Malcolm Armstrong Renaissance Man Award for 2021 is Loren Ehlers. Congratulations, Loren. Thank you to Professor Madonsela for presenting all those awards. The final set of awards are the Headmaster's Awards, and so I invite our Headmaster to present these. I'm going to read the general citation first for Headmaster's Awards, and then each boy will have an individual citation. The Headmaster's Award is given to those boys who are eligible by virtue of having achieved excellence in at least 2 activities, be it sporting, academic, cultural, or in a position of leadership. Their service to the school and their fellow man is an example to all. Their dedication and devotion to the school values and ideals is unquestioned, and we honor them for their contribution. We have 5 Headmasters Awards this evening, and the first of these is awarded to Avela Tsengiwe. If you allow me just to read the citation before I invite Avela to receive this. Avela was selected as a school prefect this year. His kind and nurturing nature has made him a well-respected leader who leads quietly by example. Avela was awarded full colors for basketball and was selected as the first team basketball captain for the year. After suffering a season-ending injury, he continued to fulfill his role as basketball scorer for the rest of the year. Avela also has full colors for service, having performed this role admirably over the years. Grounded in strong values, he always gives of his best and never steps away from a challenge. Congratulations, Avela, on being the recipient of a Headmaster's Award. Second of our Headmasters Awards goes to Yuri Kemp van der Walt. Yuri Kemp is a young man who has shown incredible dedication and commitment to both his schoolwork and extramural pursuits. He has been awarded full colors for academic achievement and for music. Yuri Kemp has been a member of the orchestra and brass choir, as well as the bridge club. On the French horn, Yuri Kemp has been a soloist for the school orchestra and has been chosen to be part of the Symphonia Juventi youth orchestra. Yuri Kemp has always shown himself to be a young man who honors his commitments and who works hard to achieve his goals. Congratulations, Yuri Kemp van der Walt. The third recipient of a Headmaster's Award this evening is Oliver Binks. Oliver's leadership qualities were recognized when he was elected as both a school and a house prefect. He has performed all his duties reliably and responsibly and has fully justified the faith placed in him. Oliver has fully involved himself in the life of the school. He is passionate about the games of water polo and rugby. He played for the second water polo team and the first rugby 15. Oliver was also awarded full colors for service to water polo. He is loyal, gifted, and well-rounded young man. So congratulations to Oliver Binks on being the recipient. Fourth recipient of a Headmaster's Award is Pedron Wessels. Pedron's leadership abilities resulted in him being selected as a school prefect and head of Hofmeyr House. He has fulfilled his duties in a meticulous fashion. In the academic sphere, Pedron has a sound work ethic which resulted in him being awarded academic full colors. Extramurally, Pedron was fully involved in the life of the school. This included filling the position of editor of the Boys Highlight publication and vice chairman of public speaking. Pedron has been awarded full colors for his contribution to the Boys Highlights. Congratulations, Pedron Wessels. And the last of our Headmasters Awards this evening goes to Robert Snedden. Robert is exceptionally talented in the field of music, for which he has been awarded full colors. He has played piano and trumpet during his time at the school and is also a fine composer of music. Robert has been awarded honors for academic achievement. He has made an incredible contribution to advanced program mathematics at Boys High. Robert represented our school in the very prestigious third round Advanced Program Mathematics Olympiad and represented Gauteng in various mathematics competitions at the University of Pretoria. Noteworthy is that he has always been willing to assist those around him and to share his passion for both music and mathematics with his peers. Congratulations to Robert Snedden. Thank you to our headmaster for presenting those awards. The very last award is presented by Mr. Jason Weber, who is the current chairman of the Old Boys Association. And so I invite Mr. Weber up to read the citation for the Old Boys Prize and to make that award. Thank you, Mr. Weber.
Good evening, Mr. Hassenkamp, Mr. Ehlers, Professor Marunsela, Mr. Kingen, members of staff, parents, and the class of 2021. To the matrics, tonight we mark a significant milestone in your schooling career as we celebrate the completion of your time at Boys High and recognize the many varied contributions that each one of you has made during your time at the school. You will no doubt be feeling mixed emotions as you look forward to what the future might hold, while at the same time be realizing that some of the best years of your life are coming to an end. As you make your way out into the world, you will all follow different paths. Some will travel, some will study, some will start working straight away, some will get married, some won't. Some will move into a new home for the first time, while others will stay with their parents for as long as they can bear to keep them. But one thing that each one of you will have in common is that you will all become old boys. The brotherhood you have developed during your time at Pretoria Boys High School is something that few people can explain and is something that lives on long after you leave the school, something few other schools can claim. You will no doubt soon come to realize the value of this incredible network of old boys as you move into the working world or travel abroad. There are old boys everywhere. I've already had the privilege of addressing you this year about the Old Boys Association, the formal body of old boys which provides support to its life members and to the school. I encourage every one of you to join the association if you have not done so already. The association is a network which represents over 7,000 life members, one of the largest associations of its kind in the country, and I suspect the world. Tonight, on behalf of the network of old boys across the globe, it is my pleasure to present the Old Boys Prize, a prize awarded to that pupil of the school considered by the old boys to have shown the most outstanding qualities of application and endeavor, sportsmanship and manliness, loyalty and integrity, example and leadership. This year, the prize is awarded to Kyle Marshall.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome our guest speaker for this evening's function. Professor Madonsela is a person who will need very little introduction, if any, to the audience gathered here this evening. In fact, she would need very little introduction to any audience in South Africa, and the same could probably be said of many an audience in the world, especially if it was in political circles. When we began around this time last year, considering guests for this function, the first and only name on our list was Professor Madonsela. It was not so much her impressive CV which attracted us to her, but rather the lady she is and what she stands for. As I introduce Professor Madonsela this evening, it would be quite easy to read through her long list of qualifications and offices held, but in my opinion, that would not do justice to the quality woman that she is. Instead, this evening, as I introduce Professor Madonsela, I briefly reflect on the role she has played that has influenced every single one of us in the hall this evening, and possibly every single South African life. Jacob Zuma must rue the day he casually signed the letter of appointment for Thuli Madonsela, the country's third public prosecutor. The office of the public prosecutor back in 2007, after Jacob Zuma's triumph at Polokwane, seemed insignificant and ineffectual. It had almost no public profile compared to the National Prosecuting Authority, the Scorpions, the police, and other oversight bodies, and was in fact known for being soft on transgressors who defrauded the state. The office of the public prosecutor was not supposed to pose much of a problem. Madonsela, however, had other ideas. Independent-minded, fiercely loyal to the Constitution, and committed to building a country based on law and statute, she became Zuma's biggest nightmare. A formal legal advisor during multi-party negotiations at Kempton Park and at the SA Law Reform Commission, Madonsela proved to be anything but compliant and submissive. She pursued the question, or the questions asked, about the building and development of Nkandla with a single-minded vigor, angering the governing party who defended Zuma and tore into Madonsela. She remained undeterred, and with the assistance of the Constitutional Court, forced Zuma to concede defeat and return millions of rands to the public purse. In March 2016, Madonsela wrote to Zuma asking him for an interview to discuss complaints about state capture. After being met with silence, over time 3 different complaints were lodged. The complaints related to the state capture, Zuma's relationship with the Guptas, and his son Dudizani's proximity to the family. She asked him for a meeting in March, in April, and another meeting in September. The meeting was finally set for October, days before she was to vacate her office. Zuma believed that by dismissing her, ignoring her requests, and stalling as long as he could avoid the investigation. Madonsela, however, would have none of it. Just like the Constitutional Court would do 5 years later, she went out of her way to cajole Zuma to engage in a legal process when she met him on the 6th of October 2016, a mere 9 days before she was to conclude her term in office. She explained the importance of the rule of law, of process and procedure, and what she hoped to extract from the interview with him. But Zuma remained silent. He refused to budge, safe in the knowledge that within a week she would be gone, replaced by the hand-picked Busisiwe Mqwebane. Madonsela left the union buildings on the 15th of October 2016, exasperated by Zuma's dismissiveness. Zuma believed he had won the day. Weeks later, however, he attempted to block it in the courts. Madonsela released her report into state capture. In it, she played her trump card, where Zuma was compelled to appoint a commission of inquiry into state capture so that it could complete the work she could not. Zuma had lost control of the process, and his dismissal of Madonsela set in motion a train of events which even he could not foresee, much less manipulate. Exactly 5 years later, he is being held accountable. Professor Madonsela, you are a lady of integrity, a role model of bravery, a moral compass in a very often directionless world and country. You are the epitome of what it means to stand up for what one believes in. You're an example to all, and very importantly, especially to our youth of today. It is a huge honor to have you join us this evening. Welcome to Pretoria Boys High School.
Will you please just forgive me for a minute? Just as I'm waiting for the computer. bit slow. Let me just start by saying, as a feminist, the only time I used to mention old boys was when I was complaining about what's wrong with old boys networks. Until I was invited to Bishops and South African College. And I discovered, as I've discovered on many other things in life, that there are many dimensions to things. And sometimes we throw the baby with the bathwater because we only see one dimension. Right. Principal and Headmaster Hassenkamp, the matric class of 21, esteemed members of the leadership of Boys High, parents, friends, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to stand before you today and watch as a group of some of the brightest young minds in this country are being celebrated. Congratulations on making this far to all of the matric class of 2021 at Boys High. I'm certain that you have come this far because you have anchored your lives on the invincibility of hope, honest work, and human connectedness. And that, of course, is partly the value of being part of a school that values brotherhood, that values the interconnectedness of humanity. But I do think that the human connectedness that has brought you this far goes beyond the bonds of Boys High. They include your connections to your families, to friends outside the school, to workers who help your parents so that you may focus on your schoolwork, to those who transport you, and generally the whole village that has raised you as children. You graduate at a time when things are different in many ways. Firstly, at your age, I was not regarded as a grown-up. So I still had another 3 years to make mistakes and be treated as a child. That's not the same for you. If you are turning 18, as you graduate from high school, you also are going to be treated as an adult and your mistakes given the same weight and sometimes harshness that is given to adults. A special congratulations to those of you that have received awards. And I must say again, it was such a heartwarming moment for me to partake in the delivery of the awards. And one of the things that struck me was the value system beneath those awards. Because societies rise or fall based on the value system. And it's not just having values on a strategic plan and putting them on the wall. It is about rewarding those who embrace those values and show them or model them in their everyday lives. To those that are not receiving awards tonight, I'm not going to assume that you didn't work hard enough, because life is like climbing mountains. Sometimes you give it all you've got, and then unexpected twists and turns make it impossible for you to achieve your goal. Only you alone know what you have put into this. But I would like to assume that everyone in this room who is in the matric class is in that class that you refer to as Form 5, which is heartwarming for me because it reminds me of old times. You are in that class because you've worked hard through the hurdles of life. I did say that it is though like climbing mountains. And sometimes things are unpredictable. I know this because in 2019, I nearly did not summit Kilimanjaro because of the twists and turns of life. But I must indicate that in my case, the near miss would have been an own goal because I lost focus. Instead of focusing on making sure that I was ready to summit, I pivoted and focused on making sure that I was slim enough to fit into my summit clothes. Life has taught me that it is like climbing mountains, that you have to plan properly, but plan for all possibilities, even though you pray for the best scenario. And I do again believe that you have come this way because you have anticipated the storms of life and you have triumphed over those storms. And some of your stories reflect just that. I've also learned, though, that not all storms can be anticipated. Some refer to those storms as black swans, at least from the point of view of the economy. And one such storm is COVID-19. But COVID-19 has affected the whole world, and therefore there is at least some group solidarity. But sometimes there are life quakes or mini earthquakes that just affect you alone or you and your family alone. What do you do in those cases? I have found that people who triumph over those cases are those where there are two pillars of strength. One is the question of your own internal anchors. how rooted are you as a person? The second one is society. To what extent is the world supporting you, your family, your school, etc.? But I've also found that those who focus too much on the world do end up not achieving their dreams. As part of my part course to you as you go into the world, I would like to share with you the story in a book called Who Moved My Cheese? If you haven't read it, please do. If you can't afford a copy, you will find it at the library. It's a very important book about understanding that life is not the way it should be. It is the way it is. And people are not the way they're supposed to be. They are the way they are. And it is about achieving your purpose and your goals regardless of what happens in society. Just in summary, this is a book written by Spencer Johnson. It is about two little people and two little mice, all of them residing in a maze. Initially, they were just visiting that maze looking for food, and eventually they found cheese. And they loved this cheese so much that they kept coming back, jogging to the maze now and again, virtually every day. When they realized that there was so much cheese to last them every day, they decided to camp there and build their homes there. Like we do when we find jobs. We start building our homes there, bringing our families there. And then one day, when the humans came to eat cheese, there was no cheese. Their reaction, their names being Hem, reflecting being hemmed in, and Ho, the one who holds away. But anyway, the humans, when they found that their cheese was gone, they cried, "Who moved my cheese?" The mice, on the other hand, had been there earlier in the morning and found that there was no cheese, and they left to look for more cheese. Their names were Sniff and Scary. Of course, the one was sniffing, and Spencer Johnson says the mice had realized that the cheese, the quantity of the cheese had been declining over time. And so when the cheese finally disappeared, the mice knew that it had been on its way out. The humans, on the other hand, were so comfortable in their comfort zone that they did not realize that the cheese was declining. So eventually, they kept complaining about who moved their cheese, and they still stayed cheeseless. Eventually, hunger convinced Ho to move and go and look for cheese, which he found at a new station, Station N, which is where the mice had gone and found cheese. And they found there was more cheese there and more varieties of cheese. Hem stayed hemmed in, complaining and analyzing who moved my cheese. You will agree with me that there are many people in this country who complain every day about who moved their cheese, about a country that's not being run properly, about Eskom that's not delivering electricity. I even had residents where a friend of mine lives refuse, and I mean refuse, to install a generator for their own lives because they just found it easier to complain that government was not doing what it was supposed to do. But imagine who was suffering in the process. They remained cheeseless, and they still remain cheeseless actually to this date. So what does this mean to you as young people that are leaving high school? Hopefully all of you leaving high school. Well, Boys High does well, so you're gonna go out there in the world and some of your expectations are not going to be met. Some of you are planning to go to university. Some are planning to go and study overseas. Some of you are planning to go straight to work. Others are planning to start your own businesses. Things might not immediately work out. So what do you do? What I learned throughout my life, particularly in climbing mountains, running the public protector, and now at Stellenbosch University, mobilizing society around the M plan for social justice, is that the next move is always yours if you want a particular set of outcomes. So before I talk about what could you possibly do and what would help you, let's go back to Ham. Spencer Johnson, after many years, was asked what happened to Ham because people felt sad that Ho, Scary, and Sniff went away, they found cheese, and lived happily ever after. So what happened to Ham? And I think many people in this room can empathize with Ham because not all of us are agile. When there's a new thing, you don't just jump and get on with what's happening. Some of us want to analyze and decide, will this work for me? Unfortunately, sometimes it's too late, hence you get left behind. So Spencer Johnson wrote a second book, which means if you stayed hemmed in, there's an opportunity to still get out of the maze, and the book is called Out of the Maze. Just to summarize that quick story again, after really feeling hungry, Ham considered leaving. And he left, but he was just zeroing around Cheese Station C until he came across another person, another human being, whose name was Hope. And with Hope, they journeyed around, didn't find much cheese, but at first sight of each other, Hope offered Ham a round object, hard, crunchy, and at first Ham refused to eat it, but eventually, out of hunger, he ate this new thing. It turned out to be an apple. What does it mean for your lives is that you have plans right now, and they're very, very clear. What if those plans do not work out? What I've learned is that sometimes you have to diversify, and sometimes you have to pivot. The most important thing is be clear about what is your purpose in this world. Or even if you don't know what's your purpose in this world, have a sense, though, of what gives purpose to your life. What makes you feel you're doing something worthy? What makes you feel you're doing something joyful, even if nobody applauds you? What gives you an opportunity to rely on the applause within you? Because regardless of what you do well, you're not always going to find people like your great teachers that are going to applaud you all the way. And therefore it becomes important to rely on your own understanding that I'm living a meaningful life. And a meaningful life Just Capital, a company that's encouraging businesses to think about creating an ecosystem that is sustainable for themselves, for everyone, and for the next generation, says living a meaningful life is when you give consideration to people, planet, and profit. And of course, even if you don't run a business, you're looking at your income. But consider the planet, because we are where we are because of the bad decisions of some of the people that went before you. But you can't say, I'm not going to do anything about it because I'm not the one who moved the cheese. Because me, you, and everyone else are in this boat. If boat planet Earth goes down, we're all going down. And trust me, it's going to go down on 3 grounds if we don't make progress on it. Planet, climate change, social injustice, and corruption or lack of integrity. Those I view as the greatest threats of our time. So, you're free to pursue profit. You're free to pursue your sporting success, but just make sure that whatever you do creates an ecosystem that will give you and everyone around you sustainable joy, sustainable peace, and sustainable safety. How can you do that in a world where trust is declining, where corruption is the order, where fracture is the order? I think the first thing is those 3 H's. Hope, find your own hope, just as Ham found hope. When everything else fails, hope is never going to leave you. The principal spoke a little bit about our role as public protector. There was a time when nobody cared about what we're doing. Even Parliament dumped us. Well, not nobody cared, society still cared. But those who were supposed to implement at some stage parted ways with us. But hope that tomorrow is going to be better than yesterday. Loving justice and having faith that what we were doing was worth something and was going to make a difference. But also having faith in humanity, in the power of humans to keep considering and reconsidering their views until they change. And I ask you, it's okay to be skeptic, to have a little bit of healthy skepticism, because that's what makes you a dynamic generation that is changing things. But please do not become cynical. Because cynics become depressed, but they change nothing, just as Ham changed nothing when he stayed hemmed in the maze and complaining about who moved his cheese. So the second H is make sure that you do an honest job. My son the other day told me an interesting story about a guinea fowl. A guinea fowl is a bird that flies very low. It can't fly very high. So it was starving because there wasn't enough food on the ground and in the low-lying branches of the tree. And then it asked a buffalo, what can I do to fly to the top so that I can have the best fruit? And the buffalo said, oh, it's easy. Just eat my dung. And the guinea fowl didn't like the idea of eating somebody else's dung, especially a buffalo bull. Anyway, but it liked the idea of getting to the top fast. Shortcuts. And eventually it was convinced. It convinced itself to eat the buffalo's dung. And voila, succeeded. And within minutes, it was flying very easily. It was agile, and it went right to the top of the tree. And it ate the best fruit, and it stayed there, feeling very glorious and successful. And there was a farmer who was passing by, and he saw lunch. And then he went into his shed and pulled a gun. He shot the guinea fowl and headed for lunch. What was the moral of the story? BS can take you to the top fast. But it can't keep you there. So it sounds funny, but think about how many people who felt that they were struggling to build businesses, they were struggling to get jobs, they were struggling to make their lives work, doing an honest job. And when it wasn't working, they got tempted to take a shortcut, to get involved in that tender that involved state capture. The law firms, the accounting firms that felt that an honest job was not getting me these government tenders and decided to play ball. That was in government. In the private sector, those companies that were struggling and suddenly cut corners and fixed the bread price. Steinhoff, VBS, those people probably have a story about struggles that they were waging when they were trying to do things honestly, and then they took a shortcut. Our dear sons, nobody said it was going to be easy, just because you're honest. But one thing I can promise you is that it's going to be sustainable. Because most things we do in life, most things that we want to earn in life have a price. Sometimes you have to pay the price now, and trust me, it's cheaper to pay the price now. If you pay it later, it gets harder. And that's what I've seen happening in government. Another thing, the last age, you know it better. It is human connectedness. The interconnectedness of humanity is one of the reasons we're still around, particularly in this part of the world. Ubuntu made sure that nobody went hungry because communities knew that together they would be strong. I am because we are. If I look after you, I'm looking after myself. If I harm you, I'm harming myself. So that interconnectedness connects you as members of this community, and pretty soon you are going to become members of the Old Boys Club. But my urge to you is, do not do what some people did in the past, where being a member of the community means justice is just us. Because when justice is just us, we inflict injustice on others. For a little while, they may take it lying down, but they'll never take it forever, because it is the nature of the human soul to refuse to be oppressed. It is the nature of the human soul to want to be free. So again, going back to the little mice and the little people. Justice as just us does not mean you're harming the others, but it means sometimes you look the other way when you see injustice. I urge you, don't look the other way, because as long as there's injustice somewhere, there can't be sustainable peace anywhere. That's why Peter Haynes took up the fight against apartheid. And that's why when there was state capture in this country, he was living well in England. He's a lord these days. But he still decided, this is my fight, because as long as there's injustice somewhere, there can't be sustainable peace anywhere. It's not just the clouds that are causing climate change that are universal, that are global. Everything has become global. We are a village. So when there's injustice in Palestine, it is my problem. When there's injustice in China, it is my problem. When there's injustice here, it is everyone's problem. So we count on you to create a world where these countries work, but they work for all by working through all. COVID-19 has reached this country like all other countries, but we are battling a bit with rebounding. One of the reasons we are battling with rebounding was that we haven't adequately invested in all our human capital. Countries that had invested in human capital, like Nordic countries, I'm talking Sweden, Norway, Denmark, etc., have found it easier to rebound. China had done the same thing. It reached its sustainable development goal on poverty in 2020. And even though COVID-19 started in China, they were able to rebound. Here, we couldn't even lock off seaters because our spatial disparities prevented others from having food security. But one of my students said, what if I'm gay? And I'm carrying this burden of just making space for gay people. Or I'm female. I'm struggling with gender-based violence. Or I'm African. I'm struggling with being among people who are at 64.2% poverty. Or I'm a small Afrikaner farmer. I'm struggling with BEE that favors big companies and historically disadvantaged people, but does not look at the fact that it's a case of musical chairs. I'm being offloaded for big business to enjoy. Should I now be fighting for everyone? My answer to you is no, you don't have to fight every battle, but you don't have to look the other way either. Because as I said, as long as there's injustice somewhere, there can't be sustainable peace anywhere. But what I'm asking of you more than anything else is not that you focus on social justice. What I'm asking of you is to make this country work by working. And I hope that you will be that generation that is not going to say, I'm unemployed. I'm hoping that you're going to be that generation that leverages the internet to sell a skill. I mean, if you're matriculant, you now have a skill. You can take minutes for someone. You can produce content on YouTube and all of these social channels that you do. But I'm not making light of unemployment. It's a huge, huge problem. I'm saying, rather though, do something. Just an ending, I do a channel called Women Ready to Lead. And a woman from Langa, it's a very poor township in Cape Town, came and said, young people, please do not look for jobs because there are no jobs. Look for work because there's always work. So it wasn't suggesting you shouldn't look for jobs. She just meant, though, change your mind like those mice and like him when he eventually changed his mind. to say it doesn't have to be cheese. It can be an apple, but it doesn't have to be looking for cheese that comes from someone else. You can also get out of the maze completely and make the cheese yourself. And us as society, we have a duty to make sure that you are supported. And from Stellenbosch University, we're mobilizing society under the M Plan for Social Justice to make sure that you are supported. And we're asking government to make sure that when it makes laws that are human impact conscious. That they think about how will this impact on students. And one of the students said, we struggled with learning under lockdown because it was isolated. But for some students, it meant no digital devices, no data, no connectivity, etc. So that's a solution that government can solve. But where there's a problem, there's also a solution. So we're looking for green energy. You are the generation that can make it happen. It doesn't have to always happen through government. Not everything must be subsidized by the state. I'm not saying the state should stop doing its job, but I'm saying we are in this boat, we'll have to make it work, and we have the ability to make it work. So congratulations again. You've climbed so many mountains to get here. But as Nelson Mandela once said, after climbing one great mountain, you discover that there are many more mountains to climb. But you have an advantage because every time you feel you are at the bottom of the new mountain, you can look back and say, what helped me to summit the previous one? So manage your headspace by reminding yourself that you are a winner. You have won before. And how do you do that going forward? Lean on hope, do an honest work, human connectedness. And if you do so, I do think that in you, we expect epic leaders, the people who lead themselves, the people who inspire and influence themselves and others to think and act in a way that helps us to build the South Africa envisaged in the Constitution. And that's a South Africa that is anchored in democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. So those leaders that I expect you to be are leaders that will always be ethical. Do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because you think you're going to be caught. Purpose-driven, always align what you're doing with the purpose of your power and the purpose of your own life. What do you want to achieve in this world? What kind of world do you want to live in? Impact conscious. Not the ones that are gonna eat BS and think that they can stay up. Impact conscious, know everything that you do has consequences for you and for the ecosystem that you're part of. But more importantly, stay committed to serve. Because when nobody says, well done, my son, there'll be at least one person, you, that will say, well done. You may not have achieved what you're supposed to achieve, but you showed up and you gave it your best shot. Thank you for coming this far. You are the leaders we've been waiting for. Go there and just do it. Thank you.
Professor Madonsela, it's been a privilege to have you here this evening and just for you to share with the boys specifically, but with all of us. I think the boys are going to go away thinking about who's moved the cheese. The crux of the matter that you've raised with us and with the boys tonight is don't complain about that there is no cheese. Go look for the cheese. Go get the cheese. Go make the cheese. You spoke much about hope tonight, and just reflecting, I can say that you are truly a hope for us as citizens of the country, where over a number of years we've looked to you as being our hope. And we continue to look to you and others in our country for that hope. But I think the challenge you leave with us is, let's not just sit on our laurels, let's get on with it. And I can challenge each boy here, be the hope for others as well as we go forward. I want to thank you for coming tonight. It is greatly appreciated. And thank you from everybody at the school, the governors, the staff, and the boys and the parents. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will conclude this evening's service with the singing of the traditional Pretoria Boys High School song, 40 Years On. And this will be followed by the academic procession, where the academic staff and stage party will leave the hall. I ask you to please stand for the singing of 40 Years On. Shall bear them along. Follow up,